Hello, i tej fotki dzisiaj sobie zagramy. To jest Stanley Parable, który pierwszy raz gram. Sobie rozpocznę grę, masno. Już się ładuje. No, wyciąłem ładowanie.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day, every month, of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Szczęśliwy Stanley.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Tu już mogę sterować. Dobra, co ja mam tutaj zrobić? Drzwi zamknięte. Tu też.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Tu może być otwarte. Zamknięte. Tu też.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Ten narrator chyba widzi, że coś tu zrobię nie tak. Ja się go nie boję. No dobra, to ja tu idę dalej, chyba nic tu nie ma. O, komputer, coś tu pyknęło. Zamknięte, to też jest jakieś wyjście. Oj. Otworzę, tam mam iść chyba. O, fajnie. Zamknięte.
Stanley clicked on literally every single door in the office, because he doesn't pick up well on cues from his environment.
Proszę mi tutaj nie przeszkadzać. No dobra, a zegar? Tyka, jest 11:26 prawie. Dobra, idę. Chyba jakieś do przesłuchań, albo nie wiem.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Tak, na pewno.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Tam jest wyjście. Nie mogę nigdzie iść. Tu wszystko zamknięte. Dobra.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Jakaś kartka, coś tam jest.
Yes, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings.
Coś tu się musi
Really
dziać,
worth
a nie tylko chodzić jak debil.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
No, każą mi iść tu w lewo. Ale nie. Teraz coś
Stanley was so
powiem.
bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Tutaj nie wiem, no. No jakaś hala duża. Coś to może być.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking
Dobra.
for her.
Proszę ty nie krzycz. Dla nich,
This
dla
is it,
kogo?
Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Ciekawe co tu jest. O kurde. O kurde.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Odebrać. Odbiorę. I tutaj coś się dzieje. Nie wiadomo co. No i znowu jestem w jakimś...
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Ładna.
Gotcha.
Back
Oh,
of us.
come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
O, cfelu.
Sorry, but you're in my story now.
Super. Ja chcę grać.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
A, czyli umarłem już. To szybko umarłem. Nic nie będę naciskał. Oni to mnie chcą coś zrobić. Nic nie mogę zrobić. A to jest jego opowieść, to będę się...
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his
Istotna, pracuje dla
existence.
innych ludzi. No dobra.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Nie, ach, nie nacisnę, to co zrobisz? Koksie. Panie narratorze. No i naciskam. I co? No dobra.
But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Biedny Stanley. No co sobie pooglądamy?
And so he began to fantasize about his own job.
Nie pooglądamy.
First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
No już jest prawie 18, to trochę czas z kumplami. Spędzę czas z
So
kumplami.
he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Obiad? Co się stanie?
As he wandered through this
Nic się nie
fantasy
stało.
world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Aha. Przypowieść o Stanleyu, tak? Jakim tu nie ma dzieci. O,
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
no dobra, iść spać. Nie będzie łóżka.
And I'm trying to tell him this,
Co się
that
zmieniło?
in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Ciekawe co było, gdybym nie kliknął. A, zaraz zadam sobie zbędne pytanie. Poczekam. Jestem w tym moim biurze początkowym. Która godzina już? Prawie 12, trochę tu siedzę i nic nie robię. Dobra, kliknę, bo tu nic się nie stanie. Trzeba 0
I
chyba.
suppose I
No.
can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button.
Proszę umrzeć.
And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I
Aha. I co się stało? O, no dobra, widzę, że tu jest już. Od nowa będzie trzeba inną opcją pójść, innymi drzwiami. No dobra, następne drzwi będą w następnym odcinku. No to zostawcie subskrybera, no to na razie, elo.